Regardless of your skill level, by the end of this video, you will become a defensive master in Madden 26. Because today we're breaking down 3 crucial tips that every single good defensive player has mastered. From stopping seams, to stopping checkdowns, to even a pro defensive trick that will take you to the next level. You're not going to want to miss this one. Let's jump right into it. Alright, so we're going to start by talking about how you can stop checkdowns here in this game. And honestly, not that complicated. So what you're going to do is there's a couple of different ways that we're going to talk about. First, you can put your curl flats on 5, okay? In your coaching adjustments, I would always also have my safety depth and close, safety width on pinch. But you can just call a stock cover 3 defense with your curl flats on 5, okay? Now, your underneath defenders are literally just going to be sitting on some of these routes, okay? If we call a route combination like this, where we have 2 guys attacking the flats, boom, 1 guy, both guys sitting right there on the flat. Jalen Ramsey and then our outside linebacker were right there, you know, sitting in the flat, ready to break up these passes. As we can see, boom, Jerry Jeudy running his flat, Jalen Ramsey sitting right there on it, nice and easy. And then same thing, our outside linebacker with his guardian cap on is right here to stop this zig route from the tight end. Okay, so that's the first easy way, you know, to stop, a check down, right? And maybe that's the best way because that takes 0 adjustments. All you have to do is set your zone drops, call cover 3, and boom, that flat route is guarded, okay? Well, now let's say that you don't want to do that. You can also just user a flat, okay? You can call a defense like this, right? And if they want to put their tight end on a flat, for example, you can just jump out there with your user. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that very often because you want to try to stay over the middle of the field as much as possible with your user defender. But you can see right here, it really didn't matter because, you know, our defense actually did a good job of guarding everything, especially if they're not, you know, super precise with their reads. So that's another great way. That's the second great way you can stop, you know, checkdowns. The third is literally just using hard flats, okay? You don't have to set your zone drops. You can leave all 3 of them on default if you want, but you can just put hard flats on the field by pressing Y, and then you're gonna shade underneath. So you're gonna press the right stick down. That's going to shade your coverage down and underneath. And so then you're gonna have hard flats on both sides. Boom, nice and easy, okay? So you're gonna see it again. If we go ahead and put that double flat route combination on the field, our guys are once again sitting right there on, you know, those flat routes. Very easy. And it's not just flat routes, it's also drags. So if we go ahead and put the same thing on the field, we put a drag right here to Jerry Jeudy. Now this is a great example of when you could user the route, right? Because what you can see I can do is I can look here and then pass the route off, right? You're trying to stop the route over the middle of the field with your user just by using it, following it, right? And then once it gets to about out to the sideline, that's when you can kind of peel off because now you understand, boom, right here. First of all, they're already sacked, but even if they weren't, you know, this flat right here would do a great job of taking away both of these flat routes, right? Because they ran 2 guys in the same area. So that's really how I would go about stopping checkdowns. 3 pretty good ways you can user it. You can put hard flats or you can set your zone drops to just make no adjustments. All right, and if you like that first tip, the next 2 are even better, so make sure you stick around and hit that subscribe button. All right, so I kind of hinted at this earlier, but now we're gonna talk about how you can go about stopping these seam passes, right? So if we call a regular cover 3 defense and we go ahead and call a route combination like this, what you're gonna see is when we go to take the snap, they can just throw that pass right there, right up the seam. Now, granted, Dylan Gabriel's not exactly the greatest passer here, but if we call it again, you can just kind of see it again right there, looking right up that seam, okay? You can just start to see why that works, right? There's a single high safety, linebackers moved inside, right? We have a flat route here to attack the flat, move Ramsey outside, and then we just double shriek them, right? They're gonna have a really hard time guarding this when you're in a cover 3. Also, you know, the other side of the field can also, you know, get open here if, you know, you don't have the right, you know, coverage on the field because boom, we take it and then we can just look right up the seam to Njoku for, you know, a touchdown. So, you know, really they have a lot of options up the seams against cover 2 and cover 3. But what you're gonna do, the first way that you can put your safety up and close, you don't really need to even touch the width here. All right, they call the same exact route combination, and now not only do you see that, well, that just shows you how great Madden 26 is. But granted, you were right there. Stop that, you know, double team Ramsey. I mean, we just got to be better. But we go ahead and take it again, and we try to look right up that seam again. And this time you see it's an easy pass breakup. So more or less, putting your safeties on close, you know, makes your coverage a lot better. Another great way is to simply still have your safeties on close, but call a cover 2 defense instead of maybe a cover 3, just because that safety is going to be right there, and you're going to have that verhook dropping back, and then you see we get a good, great pass breakup because our defenders are just close to the line of scrimmage. Also stopping the, you know, the same, you know, kind of pass here to your tight end. You can see you have, you know, hook zones dropping back. You have your safeties in great positions to break these passes up. So that's a great way that you can go ahead and stop seam passes. But another great way is to just user it. Again, everything really comes down to your user defender in this game. Trying to give you guys as many tools as possible to stop stuff. So boom, you can see you take the snap. You know they're trying to look right at the seam, right? That's a great option that you have. Just user it, hold Y, of course, or hit SWAT when the ball's in the air, Y or X. But you can see no one's gonna throw this now because your user's running out there to stop it. When you're playing against someone who all they're doing is attacking one area of the field, just start looking to user it, right? So that's easy, right? You can user stuff, but really the last way that I like to use is to use your hook zones, drop them further back using the custom zones feature. So you're gonna press D-pad right twice, then you're gonna press X here in this case, and then you're gonna hold LB to open the custom zones menu. Then you're gonna flip the left stick up once right here, and so you're gonna see he's gonna drop a little bit further back in his zone, right? Boom, we're gonna take it, and now you're gonna be able to see, and then we're able to get a pass break up there. So sometimes just using your zones and dropping them a little bit further back. Now, you can also set zone drops in this game, which would achieve the same thing as the custom zones feature does. So if you put your hook zones on 10 yards in your zone drops, that would do a great job, but you can just see Honeycomb in that 10-yard kind of hook zone there does a great job drifting back and getting right into that throwing lane right up the seams. Sometimes you don't even really need to put your safety depth in close. You can just kind of move those hook zones further back to try to stop those seam areas, and then obviously making sure you're using over the middle of the field once you have those seams taken away. So really, again, 3 great ways to stop the seams: usering them, using zone drops, and putting your safety depth in close. You can mix all of them together, but that's 3 great ways to stop the seams. All right, so our last tip here is going to be a pro tip, and it's just going to be the switch stick. I know there's so many people who still struggle, you know, with this, even though it's, you know, been in the game for a while, but it's not the easiest thing ever to you know, master, so I don't blame you. But here we go, we're in a cover 3, right? And so this is kind of the problem that you guys have. Boom, corner out, cover 3, Gabriel hits that pass, you know, on the sideline, easy completions. People are probably just spamming corner outs versus you all game, and you don't really have an answer for them. They can call it from the tight end as well, maybe even get more open here. Boom, take it, and yeah. So then you see it's wide open there on the sideline. Dylan Gabriel wants to hit the throw. So that's a problem. And great quarterbacks hit those throws all day long. But there's an easy way. It's called switch sticking. So let's just say, for the sake of this, I make it a little bit harder on myself. Let's just say I start on Honeycomb, okay? I don't start right here, because I could start here and make it easier, but let's just say we start on Honeycomb. They take this snap, we get onto our guy, very easy, 2 switches, and now we're onto our corner who, you know, is able to stop that corner out. Now, I will say, that wasn't even really the guy that I was trying to get onto right here. I started on Honeycomb, I was really trying to get on Patrick Queen, but he put me onto Ramsey. And then I didn't know, but I recognized very quickly that I was on Ramsey. So then I'm able to switch onto Slay, which honestly, it made it a little bit easier for me there, you know, not having to go through another defender, you know, to get to that corner out. But all I'm doing is flicking the right stick in that direction. So, you know, I've broken this down a lot, but I will continue to talk about it because it's the #1 thing you need to get better at on defense. So boom, we take it again. This time we're on Queen, now we're on Slay, and now we have a sack. Right? So that's all it is. Again, you don't want to give up your switch stick too early, but that's why it's sometimes great to start on Honeycomb here and then survey the play. You see they're trying to call a flood concept here, so you get onto Queen, you can kind of run over there a little bit, and then you can get onto Slay, who's really the guy who can make a play on this ball. But you can kind of see how I'm not really committed to anything yet. You don't want to commit until the very end when they're really about to throw it right here, and then you can see we get the guy on the ground because we have, you know, great pass rushers. But your coverage is going to go to the next level when you start to master the switch stick, okay? Then you can see I'm gonna start all the way out here on Joey Porter, and it's gonna be the same thing. I'm gonna end up at the end of the play on the same guy, okay? They take the snap, I recognize the route combination, boom, 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 and now I'm right there, you know, on their corner route to take it away very easily. Sometimes you end up on guys that you're not necessarily expecting. So again, flicking that right stick in the direction that you want to switch onto. It took me one switch here onto Honeycomb, then I switched again onto, let's see, Patrick Queen. Okay, boom, and then I switch again onto Ramsey, and now I'm right there to break on it. And if they threw that, it probably would have been intercepted. So sometimes, you know, it takes multiple switches to get onto the right guy. You don't just want to do this, okay? This is what you don't want to do. You know, this is a great breakdown of the switch stick because it's a problem that a lot of you guys are having, right? So if we go ahead and take it again, boom, I get onto Slay, but now I come down, and then you can see how that post where that shriek is over the top. So that's what I mean when I say you don't want to give your switch too early. You kind of just want to break on the ball right when it's perfectly timed to break on the ball, right? Because what a lot of people see is they see you switch stick onto Slay, and so now they don't want to throw it anyway. So it's not like you even have to fully commit to the corner route, you know, unless you just want to get an interception if they do throw it, which, you know, you do want to get an interception. But I'm just saying a lot of people won't throw that ball, and you don't want to give it away too early, because what a lot of people do is they just lob touchdowns over the top because they take advantage of your really aggressive switch stick. So again, using that right stick. But the last thing that I will tell you, and this is something that, you know, a lot of people don't talk about very often, it's essentially the same concept here as, you know, the right stick switch stick. But if you have to understand, if you're using a defensive lineman to start the play, let's just say you accidentally get caught on a defensive lineman, you can't use the right stick because he's in a blitz angle. So boom, they take the snap, and now I have to use the D-pad to switch stick, and then I can resume using the right stick. So I just press D-pad up right there. You could press D-pad left. Right here, I was trying to get onto Honeycomb. So, you know, to guarantee that, I just press D-pad up, and then I'm on Honeycomb. I'm able to take away their drag, and then I'm able to get onto Ramsey right here and take away their corner, obviously. So again, that's what I mean when I say the D-pad switch stick. Also, we understand how good some of these, you know, off the ball linebacker blitzes are. Let's just say I blitzed my user by accident, or I was trying to engage blitz, which is something that's really good in this game, right? If you have your user in a blitz angle, you still can't switch stick. You still have to use that D-pad to switch stick. And so it's a little bit harder to do than, in my opinion, the right stick. But I would just say immediately use that D-pad switch stick and then get off. And I mean, you could just see how fast this pocket is collapsing here. So use that D-pad up, left, right, you know, right, and that's kind of what you want to do. And then use the right stick to, you know, resume your really good switch stick. As you can see right here, pretty good coverage. All right, so that's going to do it for this video. I broke all 3 of these tips down in a YouTube short last week, so make sure you're subscribed to get early access to this content. But if you want one-on-one Madden 26 coaching to improve your game, I guarantee I can help you, or you can get your money back. Click right here for that 15% off offer. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.